through the last several years of legal shenanigans, and it is so rare that you and I actually get time together, so I'm so happy to have you here.
I'm delighted to be here.
And your pin today is Lady Justice. You've got the scales of justice on it.
I do. It seems like the right thing for what we're talking about.
I want to go from Georgia back to this, what Jack Smith has just said. Yeah. He has asked for a narrow gag order in, I think, both Georgia and in Tanya Chutkan's case, or the judge magistrate who heard the Jack Smith case in the beginning. They both warned Donald Trump about things that he can say in public. He didn't seem to be heeding any of it.
He didn't. Absolutely didn't. And I think that the request is probably too narrow. I think it has to include barring either him or his lawyers from putting forth defenses that will never be admitted in court, or that he will, for example, he already has said, I guarantee you I will testify that I did not try to suppress any of the video. I didn't do that. That's not only imputing witnesses, but it's putting forward for public opinion a defense that he's not going to be able to raise because he's not going to testify. And I think that has to be blocked by the order that's put in place, and then someone has to enforce the order. Because as long as it's not enforced, he's going to keep on doing what he does.
In a normal case, one would understand how that would all go down. In other words, you would understand how that order would come down and how it would be enforced.
Yes.
There's nothing normal about this case because anything anybody does gets them accused of being overzealous or politicized. So does a judge look at a request by Jack Smith in this case differently than they might have in other cases that you've been involved in?
Yes, because I think they can predict that he won't abide by it. His lawyers may abide by it. That would be helpful. But you don't want to have an unenforceable order out there, because then that weakens the court system. So why put in place something when you know you're not going to jail him? Mm-hmm. I think eventually they might have to. What other options are there? Financial penalties haven't worked. He redefamed E. Jean Carroll right after a $5 million judgment.
Wild. And he's getting called back to court for that. And he may get another judgment as a result of it. But the issue is the concept of doing what a court would do, which could be arrest for breaching an order. Is that practical to think that that would happen with Donald Trump? I mean, how does that go down?
Legally, of course it's possible. Politically, would it create chaos in the country? Would it create a really dangerous situation? Maybe. On the other hand, I think there's a lot of people in the country who are saying we need to have the justice system work. We need to have the judicial system work. We need to have accountability of all criminals. And so I don't know how you can avoid taking further steps. You might start with a huge financial penalty. You might start with limitations on what you can prove in the courtroom before you would start putting someone in jail. And you have to be careful because he's running for president. Mm-hmm. He has to be able to say whatever he wants about policies.
Right.
If he had any opinions on policy, you might not be able to say, he can't say I'm innocent. That's harmless. That's what you do when you plead not guilty. But it's going beyond that.
There's an intimidation issue here.
Yes.
Right? What Jack Smith seems to be referring to is whether it's potential witnesses, because they've got a lot of discovery, millions of pages. So the Trump team knows what's coming, generally speaking, and they know everybody, generally speaking, who's going to be called to testify. And I think that's what Jack Smith's sort of getting at, right? You can't do things to intimidate the prosecutors, the witness, the jurors, or anybody else involved in the case.
That is his main target. He also, in this order, asked, or in this motion, asked for a pre-approval by the judge of any polling of the jury, any focus groups that they have, because nowadays jury selection has become more of a science.
Yes.
And so it's not uncommon to try to have focus groups, mock trials. That would make sense. But in this case, you might pollute the total jury pool if you do it in a way that starts, again, putting out defenses that will never be allowed in court. And so she wants to make sure that there is a Smith is asking the judge to make sure there's pre-approval of any questions that go out to a potential juror.
Tanya Chutkan has been asked to recuse herself in this case. She has called for input from both sides on this one. They are using her own words by saying that she has commented in the sentencing of January 6th defendants that who have complained that they did this at the behest of Donald Trump, that Donald Trump's not in the room, Donald Trump is not standing trial. Tell me about this.
I think the ultimate thing will not prevail, that she will not recuse, and that no appellate court will say that was fatal error and will have to reverse the judgment because she didn't. I think that the two quotes that they have used are both taken out of context, and that when you read beyond the few lines they quote, it says, "You, the defendant, have said." It's not her opinion. And she has gone on to say, this is not me to judge that. That's not what's before me. I'm judging you and your conduct. So I think she's been very careful, and I don't think that there's anything that will lead to reversible error if she does not recuse herself.
Jill Wine-Banks, you are a national treasure who's been upholding democracy in this country for decades. I will never get over the thrill of having you with me in studio. Thanks for everything you do for us. And thanks for all those early mornings you get up, because you're in a different time zone most of the time, to join us in the morning. Thanks, Jill.
Thank you.
Jill Wine-Banks is the former assistant Watergate special prosecutor and MSNBC contributor and the co-host of the Sisters-in-Law podcast. All right, soon you'll be able to have your own print copy of the Trump indictments, the 91 criminal counts against the former president of the United States. It includes the 4 complete, unedited, unabridged indictments against Donald Trump. I edited the edition, and I wrote a foreword which sets the scene and adds important context. You're going to want this with you as these trials go on over the next year. It's out Monday, September 25th. It's available for pre-order right now. Coming up, first they started with abortion bans. Now in some red states, anti-abortion Republicans are trying to stop women from traveling to another state for a safe, legal abortion. I'm going to speak to a woman who was forced to cross state lines for a medically necessary abortion. She is now the lead plaintiff in an important new lawsuit at the forefront of the new fight for women's health. Plus,